Summer is over. Your summer game is not going to help you, and you need to take advantage of these winter conditions. So here's 6 tips to help you do that. Let's go. Playing out the wet rough. Now I've got 180 yards here. Usually in the summer I'd maybe take a 6-iron and I would just have a swipe at this, see how far down the fairway I can get it. But in the winter the grass is wet, it's going to grab that club face and we're not going to hit the golf ball as far. So there's no need to be greedy here. My first winter tip for you is club selection. Get yourself a little bit more loft. I'm going to play this shot with an 8-iron. The grass can sometimes grab the club face, it might grab the hosel, turn that face over, it's going to completely de-loft the club and it's going to come out low and it's going to go nowhere. Now with setup, as I say, the grass might grab that club face and turn it over. So what you can do is just open up the club face a little bit. And then from there, all we're going to focus on is getting really steep down into the back of that ball and get it out this rough. And when you set up to the golf ball, what you can also do is just get the weight on that left side a little bit. Because as I say, we're trying to create a nice steep angle of attack and that's going to help you do that. We don't want to be stuck over on this right side. We might catch the ground early, the ball will go nowhere. So weight left, nice and steep, open up that club face and just be really committed. Hit that golf ball hard, we want to get it out and running down the fairway. Putting in the winter. Unfortunately, greens aren't always in good condition. You're just not going to hole as many putts. You've got to accept that. Don't get too down on yourself. It's winter golf, this is what happens. But here's 2 things that you can work on. We're going to try and control our pace and we're going to try and work on our technique a little bit. Now as I say, you're not going to hole that many putts, but we can try and get the golf ball as close as we can to the hole. A good thing to think about when you're hitting a putt from especially long range, think about that dustbin lid. You've probably heard it before, but it's a really good, simple technique to use. All we're trying to do is get the ball within 3 feet of the hole on either side. So imagine that dustbin lid around the hole, you want it somewhere inside that. As I say, the greens aren't in great condition, so you should be happy with a putt within that range. The second thing that you can work on, just to make sure that you get the golf ball to the hole, is getting the ball on a really good roll. If the ball is bobbling around a little bit, it might come up a little bit short, and we want to get the ball up to the hole as close as we can. So when it comes to your technique, what you can do to help you do that is try and hit up on the golf ball through impact. When we're putting, we don't want to be hitting down, we don't want a steep angle of attack. That's going to get the golf ball bouncing around all over the place. So we want to be hitting up through impact. A way that you can do that, when you make a putt, just feel like your hands move up slightly. So I'll take my normal stroke and then I'll feel like the hands move up and that gets the ball on a really nice roll. So when it comes to putting on winter greens, all I want you to do is think about pace and think about roll. As I say, we're not going to hold loads of putts in the winter. We just want to get the golf ball up to the hole, take the pressure off yourself, and I guarantee you'll enjoy it a lot more. Distance control with your irons. You need it in the winter, especially on par 3s. Think of the conditions that we're playing in the winter. Usually it's cold, it can be windy, it can be wet, so the golf ball is not going to go as far. Now I have 133 yards here. Usually I would just maybe take a swipe with a pitching wedge, but what you've got to remember is this is winter. We're playing a different game. You've got to separate your summer yardages from your winter yardages. The ball is not going to go as far, so this is my winter tip for you. Take more club. I've got a 9-iron here. Instead of hitting the pitching wedge, putting pressure on myself to catch it perfectly, hit it really hard and get the ball to the flag, I'm going to take a 9-iron. It takes the pressure off. And what we can do is knock the golf ball down a little bit, because that's what we might need to do if it's really windy. We want to knock the ball flight down a little bit and we'll make sure that we get the golf ball on the green. Now in terms of your setup and how you actually go ahead and hit this shot, or how you hit the ball slightly lower, what you can do is just put the ball slightly further back in your stance. That's just going to de-loft the club a little bit. We've got a nice steep angle of attack and it will bring the ball flight down. You can also just grip down it a little bit if that makes you feel a little bit better, give you a little bit more control. And then what we're going to do is just take more of a 3/4 swing and we'll just have a nice abbreviated follow through. And again, the main thing that we're trying to do with this shot is just take a little bit of spin off, bring the ball flight down a little bit. Off the tee in windy conditions, 2 options we might have: downwind or playing into the wind. We'll start with going downwind. It's winter, it could be quite wet. We want the golf ball to carry as far as we can. We really want to take advantage of that. So let's start with driver. What are some of the things that you can do to maximize distance? First winter tip, we're going to try and hit up on the golf ball because we want to get the ball launching nice and high, and as I say, we want as much carry as we can get. So the first thing you can do in your setup to help you do that is move the golf ball slightly further forward in your stance. So usually you might play it off the left heel, but on this occasion we're going to move it up towards our left toe. The reason for that is the golf club starts to bottom out. If it's further forward, we then might catch the golf ball as it's moving up. And as I say, that's what our main goal is here, is to get the ball nice and high. Another way that you can do that is just drop this right shoulder. So you're going to keep your spine exactly where it is, but just feel like this right shoulder drops, and it's going to give us the exact same result. Our goal here, we're going to hit up on the ball, get as much carry as possible. What we're going to do here is change up the club a little bit. What I want you to do is take a 3-wood, and we're pretty much going to do the exact opposite. Let's tee the golf ball down a little bit because we're going to be playing into the breeze. So the main aim here is to get the golf ball nice and low through the wind. We've got our 3-wood, and we're going to try and play the stinger shot. Everybody knows this shot. Tiger Woods used to play this shot all the time. It's also a very accurate shot, so it should help you find the fairway. Now, instead of moving the golf ball forward, we're going to move it back in our stance. So what we could do is maybe even play it in the middle where you'd usually play an iron. That's going to help us get a nice steep angle of attack, and we're going to take some of that loft off the 3-wood and get it coming out nice and low. Another thing you can do is just move the hands forward a little bit. So instead of having them back here where you usually would, you move them slightly further forward. Again, just taking some of the loft off. The less loft we have, the less spin we have, the ball's going to come out nice and low. And the last thing I want you to think about with this shot, we're just going to take a slightly shorter swing. So we're going to go 3/4 back and a nice abbreviated follow through. Again, less swing means less spin, low ball flight. Wet sand, we're going into the winter, we don't get the best weather conditions all the time, and when those bunkers get really wet, that sand gets nice and compressed, the golf ball goes into the bunker, and sometimes it can be sitting down. So my winter tip for you to help you get the ball out the bunker every time, what we want to do is create a little bit more wrist hinge in the swing. That's going to help us get nice and steep on the ball and get it right out the bunker. So as you usually would when you're in a bunker, we want the weight on our left side. Now this is really important in the winter. As I said, the sand is really compressed. We want to get on that left side and make sure we get nice and steep and into the back of the ball, into that sand, so we can get the ball out the bunker. If we get stuck on this right side, we might get a shallow angle of attack, and we don't need that. We need to take as much sand as we possibly can. So weight on that left side, and then from there it's wrist hinge. That's what we want. Plenty of wrist hinge. We're almost creating an L shape here, and that's what we need in order to get a nice steep angle of attack, get the club into the sand and get the ball out the bunker. Greenside chipping in the winter isn't always that easy. Unfortunately, sometimes the greens aren't the best in the winter. They might have been hollow tined, they might have been sanded, or you might even be playing on a winter green. Now that makes our terrain really unpredictable, so you don't want to be playing that golf ball along the ground. We want to get the golf ball in the air, flying towards the flag, and hopefully get it closer more often. So my winter tip for you to help you do that, instead of playing our chip shots from the back of our stance like you maybe usually would if you want to hit a low one, we're going to move it slightly further forward, and we're going to try and get a nice shallow angle of attack. So what we want to do is just bruise that turf through impact. That's just going to give us a bit more loft, and it's going to get the golf ball flying through the air. So just to confirm, what are we working on? We want, as I say, a shallower angle of attack. We don't want the club to be coming in too steep. we might catch the ground early. We want to be nice and shallow here, so we just want to bruise the turf. When you're taking a few practice swings, just work on that. We don't want to see a divot, we just want to bruise the turf. And the way we do that, move the golf ball a little bit further forward in our stance. So I've got the ball in the middle of my stance here, and then we just go ahead and take our usual swing.